Hey everyone, I hope. Sorry, I'm having some audio issue. Cool. This is way better. I don't hear myself. Um, I hope everyone's having a nice day. Thank you for coming back. So if you're in the chat, a while ago, I started our chatbot, which just spammed the channel with a bunch of things of what I'm going to be working on today. But yeah, so the goal of today is to go and continue building our chat client, use our Twitch chat client, and figure out how to parse the messages. So if we go back here, we could see all the messages that are being sent, and like how the structure and like the kind of badges people have, and like the status of those users. So for example, I promoted our bot account to be a moderator, because if they're a moderator, they get so if it's a moderator, you get more messages. So I think that's the issue, since we gave the bot a moderator status, it now could spam the chat even more. So I would try not to not just turn, like I would try not to turn it off, so we don't spam the chat with a bunch of messages. So that's kind of what we're going to be working on today. So the goal today is just figuring out how to parse the messages and like get the right information out of the Twitch chat, because there is a lot of cool information here. So like when people join, we could see them joining, and then we could see other people like joining here as well. One thing that I started noticing is that there is like some other bots joining the chat, so we probably could just ban them later on if it comes down to it. So what I'm looking for now is just like the different. Okay, so this is the issue. So because of the changes that I made before yesterday, we could only send 20 messages per second. Now with the changes that I made, we could send at least 100 messages per second, and that's why we ended up spamming the chat when the stream started, because I was just starting the bot to like get it going. But this is how it looks like. So the way it works now is like, I'm sending a command that I'm not sure. Oh, I think the command that we're sending back is not correct. So we just have to double check that the command is not correct. So we just have to go back and check. But we could see people joining. As they're joining, we could also see the pings and things like that. Yeah, so it works correctly. At least the message works correctly. It's just very spammy. So as part of the work that we're going to be doing today, we're going to have to figure out a way to just look and see how it goes, and see how it behaves over time. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today too. Also, let me know how the font on, like the size of the font is, if it's good. I made some changes yesterday to make the font on the header to be larger, and I also made my terminal font larger. But if you cannot see my screen here or have any issues seeing the screen, let me know, and then I could make it bigger. Just post it in the chat. But yeah, so today we're just gonna go and like start making some changes. One thing I also want to do is like I want to start writing tests, because right now the way it works is that we are just connecting directly to the client. So it would be cool if we have a way to just be like just run a bunch of tests and make sure that the tests themselves are working. So we're gonna create our the first thing we're gonna do is just create a a RC server, like a temporary one, that is just gonna just ping back what we said. So the way it's gonna work is that we're gonna send a message to it, and then it's just gonna echo that message back, and then we could use that for testing purposes, right? So when we ping the first couple things that we need to do when we're starting our client is that we need to authenticate against the Twitch API. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna authenticate against it, and then the server that we're gonna make, the temporary server that we're gonna make, is gonna send that message back. And the goal is pretty much just to like write some tests that is gonna let us make sure that the parsing works correctly and making sure that different things work correctly, right? So that's kind of what we're gonna go for. So the first thing I'm gonna start doing is I'm gonna just create a new test file. And so here, so I'm gonna create a new test file, and we're gonna use that test file for just for testing in general. So I'm just gonna create a bunch of like helper functions here. And one thing I need to check too is just how the goal dialer so I want to check the goal dialer, but there's one also for listening too, so we could just use that one for listening. Okay, so yeah, so the one we want to use is the listening one, and then it's gonna loop, and then just gonna take a connection. It's gonna take a connection, and then we just have to read the connection. So I wonder if they have a sample of how the handle connection looks like. I don't think they do, so let's see. So we get a connection, then it opens a goal routine, then from there okay, so it then echoes into the connection. So whatever the connection returning echoes back. I just need to figure out what copy does. I haven't seen that one before. So cool. So I'm just gonna call it just call it test. And because we want to make sure that it handles things correctly, I'm just gonna create a goal routine. Sorry, I'm gonna pass the test client, the test package to it, so we can just keep using it. So from there, cool, and we're gonna return back a instance of which is our server. So what we're trying to do now is like we want to start writing some tests for our client. So we are just gonna start writing. So the first thing we need to do is like map the server, because I don't want it be connecting to the Twitch API. Sorry, to the Twitch chat server constantly. I just want to connect once, and then sorry, not once. I want to connect to a fake one, and then I'm gonna post a message to it and get a response back. So let's just see what the dialer returns. Cool. So it returns a listener, so we can just take the listener and use that. So it takes a that's not the one. I missed something here. Okay, so it takes, oh yeah, that's the one. So you have to pass, it's a string, so you pass a string that says like the different types, and then you could listen to different protocols. Okay, so it returns a listener. So listener, and then so we just want to create a structure that has that information because we want to later on use that to like start the server and close the server. So here our first function will be to start the server. So we are just going to create a method to it, to the server type, which is going to be start. Then we're going to create another method, which is the one to stop the server. Cool. So that's a shutdown one. And then listener has two things. So the listener has the address, and then it has. Okay, cool. So here we just have to do. We are gonna do like a for loop. So we just want to make sure it closes, but. So let's just send this to a go routine. So we want to do a for loop. So we're gonna do a for loop, a go routine that has a for loop inside of it because I also want to store the test. So I'm gonna just call this T and then store the test package that's gonna be passed to it because we want to use that to send and pack errors. So if there's any errors, we just want the test to fail. Yeah, he's very eager. You could try banning him. He's also a moderator, so let's see how that goes. You guys gonna have to have a source fight. Yeah, but it's spamming because it doesn't check. It doesn't double check. So it doesn't check. The thing that is happening is like it doesn't check if the person was already there or not. So what we need to do is like we need to have one of the things we need to keep track on when we start working on it is that we will need to keep a track of if the person is around. Oh wait, you need to go to the moderator tool. So if you go to the moderator tool, there's a sword next to your chat. To like, you see where the gear is. There's a sword. There's gonna be a sword there. If you press on it, you're gonna get the moderator tool, and then you should be able to see it. Oh, I see. No, I could ban you. So okay, so are you in the moderator tool? So in the moderator tool in this chat box, there is a 3 dots. You press show mod icons, and then you see like a circle with a with a line across of it. Then you have a timeout button and you have a delete button. But you have to turn that on. So yeah, in the moderator tool, you have to turn on show mod icons. Okay, so cool. As you can see, it has all the messages that we're sending, like you're sending in the chat, and a bit of extra information too. So it has like the ID of the message, if you're a moderator or not, the room ID, if you're a subscriber, and like the server that sent the message. So we could use all this information to do cool stuff. But yeah, if you turn on if you go to the moderator tool and you turn on the icons by clicking the 3 dots next to the chat window, you should be able to delete or ban or timeout. So timeout. Awesome, yeah. As you can see, it's almost there is a short delay in the stream, but it's almost as real time as it gets, right? So I could see the message in our client at the same time that I see it in the Twitch client. So it's very cool. So we could start making decisions based on that, right? And like if I wonder if it shows us if there's any new followers here, because if it does, I don't have to depend on the API to get new followers. I know it shows us new subscribers. So as part of it, it shows you like subscribers and things like that. So it would be cool if it shows you like events and things like that. So we could continue looking at it, but it would be very cool to look at those things. So I messed up somewhere. Line 13. So I think, I'm not sure where I messed up. Let me just... Yeah, something is sending unknown commands, and I think we're sending unknown commands. Oh, you know what? It could be that maybe sending different information. So maybe sending like pings that don't have anything on it in it. So we might have to look into those things, like the unknown commands. We might want to echo them out. So I messed up somewhere. Line 14. So okay. I think they should be here. Oh. Check out how I'm defining my functions. I'm missing the friends in the beginning. At the end, sorry. But that's why it's failing. Okay. And then line 18. I need to call itself. Cool. So, oh, I got it backwards. This one goes here. So in here, the way it's gonna work is we need a channel to say that we're running. So running, and the channel is just gonna be used to let us know when we're shutting down. So we need to shut down the like the loop that we're gonna go into. So we just have to make sure that we shut it down when we're done with it. And then this here is just gonna make sure that we shut it down. So it's gonna do, so we're just gonna do running, and then we're just gonna pass a. So what we're doing here is just turning it off. And then inside of the for loop. Oh, this might be better. So we can just close the channel. So I was doing JavaScript a bit yesterday, so you can see that how I'm using console.log when I'm trying to like do certain things. I feel like it should just work there. Okay, so I'm gonna close the channel, and then in here I'm gonna do so the issue is if I do, okay, you select, and then case, and then so the thing I was thinking about was just using, just doing something like this. So if I do something like that, right, it was just gonna block there. So it's gonna block there until it gets a message, but we don't want it to block. So we're gonna use select, and then we're gonna do running. And what we're gonna do if there's an error, is that we're gonna just return. So we're just exiting the for loop. And then in here, we just need to make sure that, so here we just have to make sure that we are, so we have, okay, so the next thing we have to do is like listen for, so we're gonna listen, we should do that too. So we're gonna close it here. We're gonna do we're closing the channel, and then we have to close the listener too. So let's just make sure that we clean up after ourselves, so we don't forget to close the connection or something like that. Cool. So we close the channel, then we close the listener. And the listener is used for the TCP. We're pretty much just doing, so it's gonna open a TCP connection, and then it's gonna listen on that TCP connection while we send messages. And then if we call the shutdown method, it's gonna close it. And then inside of the goal routine here, we're gonna loop through all the accepted messages. So we're gonna start accepting connections. If there is an error here, so we will have to do so what we're doing here is that we're gonna just need to check if there's an error. If there's an error, we wanted it to show it up as part of the test suite. So we're gonna be like e.t.error, and then we're gonna check if there's an error. We're gonna just return. So we're gonna return an error saying that we couldn't start the server. We couldn't listen for connections. So I need to fix that. Failed to start. Cool. So we're listening for connections now. If it fails, we're gonna throw an error, and then we're just gonna return here because we can't really do anything else. What we're doing pretty much is we want to make sure that we exit for the for loop itself. I'm gonna rename this shutting down. Shutting down, and then we're just gonna close it here. Shutting down and then closing it, and then I'm gonna move this one here because we want to make sure. So we start goal routine, and then here. So if the goal routine closes and it's at any point, we want to make sure that we close the connection. So that will be much better. Or we could just close it as part of this. Let's do this. Let's just close as part of the error. Cool. So we close as part of the error. And then we return, we close it and return. And then we don't return here. So the only place we're going to be returning is through the channel. So the channel itself is the one that's going to be handling any errors that happen or any connection issues. Is going to be closed by the channel, and then the channel itself is going to return. So we are limiting ourselves to just returning when there's an error, so when the channel closes, and that will make it easier for us to figure out like if there's any bugs. Cool. And then we start listening for connections. So we are going to get a connection object, and then an error, and here we get the listener that set. So this was gonna let us set connections, and then usually it's just so I just wanted it to echo, so it will just be much this. So the way that the sample does it is that it creates a goal routine. So it handles the message as the client connects. It takes a message from that client, and then it shuts down the connection. So that means that we only could be able to send one message at a time. I think we want to send more messages at a time. So we need to figure out how to if there's a way for us to just keep the connection open and then close it ourselves. So we want to send it to a go routine. So we're going to create another one and then take that go routine. So it takes, so it's going to take a connection. So the connection that we're getting from the client is going to take it. And then, so it's taking it. And then we're going to just pass the connection. Cool. So this is going to let us handle it, handle multiple connections at the same time. So every time our client connects, we're going to create a goal routine for that connection. We're going to respond to any messages that connection sends us. So right now, the next thing is IO copy, which I need to check what it does. So IO copy, and then just creating a copy of the message. So I'm just guessing just copy something to it just copies a string. And then for now, I'm just going to close the connection just so I know that we're not doing anything too weird. We close it, and then we could come back to it and make sure that we're doing the right thing. Okay, cool. So, and I need to handle this error. We close this channel, and then we also return a error. Okay, so what we're doing right now is that we're taking we're connecting to, we're setting connections here, and then if there's an error while we're starting to set connections, we're gonna just return a test error, and then when we take that test error, we are then gonna if there's an error, it's gonna just close the channel, and that means that this logic here will be executed. Maybe I should just do continue. Yeah, I have to do continue, or it's gonna go down the line, and we might get an error because of our empty. There's gonna be an empty. Yeah, there's gonna be an empty pointer, a nil pointer, and then it's gonna panic because I'm trying to do something with an empty pointer, with a nil pointer. Okay. So that handles the connection. So it shuts it down, and then it continues. So it's just gonna go back to the top. And then if there is an error so I start listening for a connection. If there is an error when I'm starting to listen for a connection, it's gonna just throw an error to the test suite. Then we're gonna close the channel. So, and then we're gonna continue back to the top of the loop. And then here, when we get a connection established and I start listening to it, I'm gonna take it and do I'm gonna create a go function, a go routine that takes a connection. So the connection that we just got on line 33 is gonna be taken, and then we are gonna create a go routine with that information, pass it to the go routine, and then we're gonna copy whatever the client sent us, and then we're gonna close the connection. I just need to make sure what copy really does, because I haven't used this before. The network package is so big. IO. Okay, so IO takes a writer. So our writer is the connection. So we could write to the connection. Sorry, right here. So we could write to the connection. So if we do see that write, we're gonna write to it. And then also we have a reader. So the reader let us read a set of bytes. So we're just reading off from the connection. Okay, so that makes sense. So while we're reading and while we're sending, it allows to send that information to the channel. So that's kind of how it works. So we're just reading everything that the client's sending, and then we're sending everything back to the client. So that's kind of how this is the copy method works. So that's what we're doing. I need 2 minutes. Cool. So we have that. So now we should just write a test for us. Also, I didn't know this, but there is a ton of random bots that join the chat, and that's why you see that message that our chatbot just sent is because there is another one that just joined. So I was looking at this chatbot before, and it's something no one really knows what it does. So something for us to figure out maybe how to ban them. So I need 1 second. Sorry about that. So I learned a while back that so my phone provider blocks me from sending my email address to people. So if I try to send my email address through a text message, so it doesn't let me send messages at all. Like, it hates it. It doesn't like that I do that. So I had to break my phone number, my email into like multiple pieces, because they think I'm spamming, or they think that the person is trying to phish me. Yeah, it totally refuses to let me. Yeah, it just totally refuses to do it. It doesn't like that at all. Okay, cool. Okay, so now we should just write some tests. So we should write some tests, use our new server to make sure that it does what we want. Okay, so our tests, because this is just a helper function, I'm just structure. I'm just gonna push it all the way to the top. Okay, so here we're gonna do tests. Just call it simple. So this test is gonna be super simple. We are just gonna open a connection, send one message to that, and then close that message and send it. Send that message back to the client. So here we are gonna create, I need to create a new function. yeah, so this is the way to do it. So this is going to return a pointer to our echo server. And then here, to shut down. And we're going to make a new channel. And it's going to be a bool channel. And it's going to take one. And then we're going to create a listener. So I wonder if it works the same way, so that if the listener works the same way that the HTTP listener works like. Because if you pass just 2 colons, so if you do something like let's see if it works. So if you pass no port to it, it will just pick a port for you. So I wonder if it will pick a port for you. Maybe I should just look at how the test server does it. So what I'm trying to do now is just create a test server. So I wrote the initial classes for structure for the test server to test so the test server is going to just behave like the Twitch chat server, but it's going to be just like a dumbed down version of it. You send something to it, you get it back. What I'm trying to do now is that I'm trying to create so the test server is going to be created, and then I'm going to just send tests, like everything that I'm expecting to send to the Twitch client, I'm going to send to our test server, and then our test server is going to reply back with that information back, and then we could just do some parsing, or we could do the parsing in the test server. So that might be the best way to do it. Cool. So let's just look how the server itself handles, like if you don't pass a port to it, how it goes around, like how does it go, and it makes sure that it just picks a valid port. So let's see. Server flag. Server flag. So it creates it, then there it does something with new, and then there is something called server flag. Server flag is it's the flag if you want to pass okay, so it's like something that they pass down to it if you want to override it, like if you want to test it manually. So you could add a flag to it. So that's what they're doing. Okay, so if I pass 0 to it, it's just gonna pick an IP address, a port for us. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pass if we pass a port number as 0, the Go internals is gonna find a port for us, and then it's gonna add it to the address. So we get a address. As far as the listener, we get an address. So we could find the address that we need to connect to by just doing that address, that string, and we could get this necessary information from there. So here, so we're gonna create a listener. Let's see if we do it correct. So a listener, and it's gonna take Also, I think we don't have to pass address, so it's gonna listen to the TCP connections. And then here we're just gonna pass 0 to it. Cool, and I think that should do it. And then we are just gonna take the test framework and the test package and just pass it back into it. So it makes it a lot easier for us to just go through it. I might have a syntax error. What I miss? Oh, I know what it is. We need to return structure, and I'm missing a paren. Am I missing more stuff? Let's just do something of that. Oh. I am turning this into a pointer where it should just be a pointer zipper. Okay. That was the issue. Cool. And then here, go back to the top, and then we do test server, or we use st and then do test. And just pass C2. And cool. And then since you have a test server, we can just do defer ts that shut down. Shut down. Yep. So what we're doing now is that we're shutting down our server. So we're shutting it down. So let's see if this works. Cool. And then on this. Way better. Here, so we that list. Here. Oh, I'm doing it twice. That is not needed. Then I want to make sure that the channel has returns multiple jobs. Wait, no, jobs, and it's an integer and more. Wonder what I missed. Oh, it's not null. It's Okay. It's the boolean, so we could do if it's not okay, then return. Yeah. What else? It's because I have a main in here, so I just have to turn this into main for now. So the naming becomes a bit important. So since I have a package name, so the main file has a main, so it's a main package. So that means I cannot have main package and our IRC together. So I just have to call it main for now. Okay, let's see. Too many arguments. Wait, they said too many arguments. Oh, it's not listener, it's listen. Okay, so listen. And okay, so this one returns an error too. From there, and just create a new value. Just call it L, and then error here. And then since we are not inside of a call routine, we could just throw in a fatal error in here. So if the error is not empty, we do t.fatal. And then inside of fatal, we could just do so I have fail to create so we're just gonna print out the error again. Okay, and then here we just pass L for the listener. This works. Cool. And since it's not doing much, it's just closing that out. So maybe for now, I'm just gonna let's see if it works. So we should print if we are listening for connections. So we're gonna print here listening for connections or assigning connections. Connections, and then here we just want to make sure that this works. So to make it easier for us to debug, since there is a lot of async logic that we're doing, we just want to make sure that it just works. So we have it's going pretty good. I am working on we're writing tests for our Go. So we're writing a Go client for the Twitch chat because we have a chatbot going on here. So we're just like writing some tests and making sure that things work correctly. And then we're also trying to send some so this is a chatbot that we have connected to the chat right now, and it's like collecting some messages, and then it's also supposed to send a message on saying what I'm working on, but for some reason it didn't send one when you join, so it should have sent one here. So that's pretty much what we're working on. So we're working on writing a like a test server where we are able to send some commands into our so we're gonna send some commands, we're gonna send some dummy data into the chat, into the test server, and then we're going to take that test. We're going to use that for testing, right? So every time someone sends a message, we are going to be able to test that over and over again. So it looks like the bot itself is having issues sending the commands, and that's what we're seeing here. So maybe later on we could go back and figure out like why you cannot send the commands, but for some reason it's failing to send messages. But the message, we have a message that is supposed to send from time to time saying like what I'm working on. So every time someone joins the chat, it's supposed to say like this is what I'm working on. But for some reason it's currently failing, and that's kind of why we're writing tests, right? Because I'm not sure why is sending a unknown command. So we just have to go back and figure out like why it's doing that, and then we could fix it. But as you can see, we are getting messages from the Twitch client. We just need to figure out how to parse them. We just need to figure out, so we're gonna figure out how to parse them. We're gonna figure out how to display them back in a nice way. But that's kind of what we're working on. But yeah, so I am just pretty much just writing a bit of code to be able to connect to the Twitch client, to the Twitch chat server, and then we could do different actions based on that. So we could listen for like events. So we could listen for when someone joins the chat for the first time, which is what that working on message is supposed to do. And then we are also going to do some like we could hook up for some of the notifications that we're going to be getting to. So we could send notifications when for example, when a moderator joins, or for when a VIP joins. So if we could get, I think if you get 5 people chatting at the same time in the chat, you get a VIP badge, and then everyone in there, so you get 5 people that could be VIP for your channel. So that's kind of what we're working on. So we're working on a way for us to, first we want to be able to show all the messages in the string. So every time someone types, I want to make sure that it shows up in the string as well, so somewhere around here. And I also want to be able to handle some notifications based on the Twitch chat servers. And we're kind of building this just for fun, because I used to write Go like a year ago, and now I'm learning to write again. So I'm just like, this is more like a refresher to do certain things. But yeah, so we just need to figure out how to do certain things and make sure that it works correctly. And then the last thing that we have to figure out is how to handle like bots joining the chat and then leaving. So I want to make sure that there's like a timer before like we show a message or anything like that. But that's what we're working on for the day. Just trying to figure out how to write some unit tests, so we could start writing some code, and then we can move on from there. Cool. So here we want to make sure that we said, let's see, client connected, or more a new client connected. So right now our server, so Go, right now I'm using Go for as part of to build the client, the server client. But Go is mostly used for sending events and things like that. Sorry, it's mostly used for like low-level languages, and you could do a lot of things that you could do with Go. So there is like ways for you to, so you could do it for low-level programming. You could do it for like building like low-level TCP connections and clients like that. You could do it with Go, and it's very good for writing infrastructure code because it's fast. And you could turn off the garbage collector. So one thing is that you could do with Go is like you could turn off the garbage collector and get like a performance improvement. But in general, you don't turn it off because the garbage collector is very good. And there is like one thing I like about Go is like there is not that much gotchas, right? It's like as long as when you learn the syntax for it, it's very straightforward. There is no weird thing. Like for example, like JavaScript, pretty much you always have to use triple equal sign. But that's kind of like a big gotcha, right? Most people are, you kind of learn that as you go. It's not part of like, all you have to, like, the language itself doesn't force you to do that. In Go, it's like Go is very opinionated, so it will force you to do things if it thinks is best, right? So like same thing with the error handling in Go. It's like, it's very explicit. You have to always handle your errors, and if you have to declare the errors. So mostly it's because it lets you, so Go is mostly used for infrastructure tools, so low-level tools that need to interact with the operating system, and also it's very fast. So people also use it for creating microservices and services for the backend, because you get the performance improvements there, and you don't get all the weird gotchas that you get with some of the languages. So like, for example, when you're using something like JavaScript for the backend, so you don't have to deal with like some of the gotchas. But yeah, that's pretty much what Go is used for. Okay, so a new client connects, and then we print out. We copy the data the client sent, and then we send it back. So that's kind of how we're doing it, what we're doing here. We're just sending whatever the client sent us, we're just gonna send it back. And since we're just sending it back, we are then gonna close the connection. So we might need to keep track of the connections later on, but for now, we shouldn't keep track of it. Because that could be interesting too, just like being able to keep track of the connection and being able to read information out of it at the same time. But for now, let's just keep it simple and go with the test server. So this here will never trigger because we don't have a client connecting to it. So we're calling it, we're starting our server here, our test server, and then we're shutting it down. So what we should see here is that we are accepting connections, and then we're not accepting connections. We are now accepting connections. So we're accepting connections. Since we're accepting connections now, we should see that we're accepting connections, and then we should see the server closing. So we should print out when the server closes, when the server is shutting down. So this is mostly for myself to go back and figure out like how things are working, because one of the issues that that might happen is like we might have a bug somewhere and we might not be able to cache it because there is nothing telling us where in the logic the program is. So this is mostly for us to keep track of that. So cool. I think it's too fast. So let's just not shut it down. And let's get rid of this go routine. What we're doing now is just mostly just want to force it to just like not close. Okay, so it's I think this is blocking. That is too bad. We might have to figure out how to stop that from happening. Oh, okay. So I think that second connections also blocks onto one connection, like after one connection. Yeah, that's what's happening. So when you start accepting connections, it will block onto something connects. Okay, so again, we're keeping it simple here, so we're just ignoring the async part of things. And then, yeah, that's gonna block, so we need to figure out how to use a channel that doesn't block. Oh, I wonder if this will work. So we're just gonna send it to default. And inside of default, we just put this here. Okay, yeah. So the trick with select is that select is not supposed to block. So you could listen to n number of channels in Go, and then it wouldn't block. What we changed was that we're still listening for the shutdown command, but by default, it's just gonna do it's just gonna set connections, right? And it's gonna block on line 32 until it gets a connection. But now the thing that we have to figure out is like we might have to close the connections. So we might need, for now, let's just keep going, and then if we get anything else, any tricky spot, we could just go back to it. Okay, so we're accepting connections. And the thing we need to do is just get the address. So we don't have a place for the address. So we just have to return the address here. So the address is the one that we're going to use to open connections to the client. And to get the address, we are going to just use L address and then set a method. Yep. Cool. So what we're doing now is that we're setting a variable. Sorry, we're setting a field in the structure that has the address where our clients are going to be connecting in the future. So let's send this to a Go routine now. So because we were, I made some changes to start using a Go routine, we just had to add it back. So what we're doing now is just sending the logic that listens for events to a Go routine. And then, so yeah, it goes into a Go routine, we have an address, and then we just print out the address. So let's print out the address. So we're gonna print out the address to make sure that what we have in the address makes sense. So, okay, so because we're using a address, so we have, this is the address that we're gonna be using for testing, right? So every time our program starts, it's gonna get a random port. Yeah, so it gets a well, in this case, it just keeps using the same port because there's nothing else listening in that port. But if you imagine that we have like 5 or 6 tests running at the same time, each one of them will get its own port. So the way it works is because I'm passing 0, it's just gonna select whatever port is open. And if the available port that it picked is now open, it's then gonna just continue increasing it until it finds an open port. So that's kind of what we're doing. So now that we have that, so a bit of a recap for everyone watching is that what I'm working on is a way for us to test our Twitch client. So we started writing a basic simple chat Twitch client, which is currently running, and the Twitch client is sending events every time someone joins the channel. It's going to send an event welcoming the person, and then, well, pretty much saying what I'm working on, which is controlled by a file that we created yesterday during yesterday's stream, which just prints out what I'm working on. So pretty much anything that every day that I'm streaming, I'm going to update this file saying what I'm working on. So when someone joins, it sends that message, and that's pretty much it. So the way it works is that we are sending a few commands into the Twitch chat server. So because we need to authenticate ourselves and we need to make sure that the server knows who we are, and then we connect to the channel that we want to connect to. And then we just like listen for specific events. So from time to time, Twitch will send us a ping event, and then we use that ping event to just ping back Twitch, just saying that we're still around. And then when we get a join event, we then send a message to the chat saying, hey, this is what Miguel is working on. So that's kind of what we're building. So the next step that we're trying to do is start writing some tests for this, because it's going to get a bit complicated because we need to do a bit of parsing. So as you can see, like there is a lot of information that we have, and we need to figure out how to how to go and parse that information, right? So we have like different badges that people have, and then we have the color of the person's name, or the display name, and then like if they post any if they have any flags or things like that, we have to handle those things too. And then like if the person is subscribed for now, so we could do some really cool stuff. But first, we need to figure out like some of the things that we need to start writing some of the logic, logic to help us make testing easier. And one of those is having a test server that we just post a message for it, and then we just do some parsing based on that information. Cool. So now that we have the address, we could then just so I'm just gonna take some of the logic here that I have. We're gonna reuse it again, but I don't want it. So I'm gonna create a new file to help us for the testing. But for now, I just want to write a very simple test to make sure that our chat server works correctly, the way that we want it. Cool. So, okay, and now the difference here is that we are, instead of connecting to the street server, we're gonna connect to our test server address. Cool. And then we're just gonna use fatal here. Okay. So now, we are just gonna copy this. And then in here, we could just send a message. So let's just send hello world. And well, we're gonna get back. So we have to read back. So we're gonna read back. We need to use the readers. So these are two readers that the gold standard library gives you. It's just around messaging and error handling. So there is like when the connection gets close, you want to be able to get an error, and that's kind of what test proto does. It just looks when the connection gets close, it returns a end of file error, and you kind of use that to figure out if there's an error or anything like that. Cool. So now that we have that, so what we're doing here is that we're creating a connection. So we're starting a connection and we're connecting to our test server, and then we are writing to it. We're sending a message to it saying hello world, and then since the server itself is gonna respond back, it should respond back with the message that I just sent back. So we just have to handle. This is what we're gonna do. So first, we need to check if there's an error, because we shouldn't expect any errors. So if there's an error here, we should just fail. So again, we're using fatal because we don't want to continue. If there's any issue and there's an error, we shouldn't continue down the line at this point. Cool. Now that we have that, we could then just sprint while it's sending us back. So what reline gives us, I believe, is a set of bytes. Let's see. Oh, it's a string. So we get a string back, so we don't have to convert it. So here we now have the print. We're printing the line that the server is going to send it back to us. So we just test that out and see what happens. And I think it got stuck. Let's see. So we need to do this, and then here we just deferral. So we just have to shut down the server at the end. Cool. So we connected, but the issue now is that I'm not sure if we're getting the message that we're supposed to be sending. So we might be blocking line 28 because it might be expecting to get something from the server, but the server closed the connection on it. Where are we? Here. Okay, so we connected. It is weird. I think it's because I'm closing the connection, so let's not close the connection. So we're here, and let's see if it's blocking when we write to it. Nope. Okay, so now we're blocking here. Yep. So we're blocking while reading the new line. Oh, it's because we're not passing a new line. Since we're not passing a new line to it, it just thinks that it's going to be more information. Yeah, there we go. So the way that read line works is that you need to terminate the line, right? Because it expects you, if you don't terminate the line, you could send multiple things and it won't close. So we could do something like, this, where we could send a new line. And then here we could just send another line. Let's just, so we could do that. You could do this here. And as long as the carry is, as long as the new line is not sent to it, it's just gonna keep going. Let's see. Yeah. So as long as that new line is not sent to it, it's just gonna keep waiting for that new line to get a new line. So that's kind of the issue that we were getting. So because we were not sending the new line, we were just waiting for it. Okay, so we have a new line, and then here, so again, we're just running a simple test to make sure that our test server works correctly. And then here, you want to get, we're gonna get hello world. So this is more just writing a test for our test server to make sure that it works correctly. And then when it works correctly, we can just start using it for mocking the Twitch API. The Twitch chat API. So we're getting a new line. So we only compare the new line and want are the same. If they're not the same, that means that something is wrong with it, what we got. So we want to just return an error saying so this is pretty much just for making sure that we know the input and the output of the server. So want and got. So this is what we got back. Cool. So now we just rerun it. What did I miss? They might have extra information there somewhere. Guess I can say new line. No. There might be some spacing somewhere in there. But I'm not adding new spacing, so I wonder if something that we're doing. So maybe, oh, we don't get a new line. That is the issue. The issue is that we don't get a new line. So when we read back, the new line is not included. So since we're reading for a new line, it will never be included. So what we need to do is just include the new line here. Yeah, so we include a new line here. So now we have the new line. Cool, that worked. So our tests are passing. So to summarize what is going on, I am writing a Twitch client using Go. So Twitch chat client is connected to the Twitch server, and then we're using that client to send messages and to add commands to our chat. So if someone joins the chat right now, the way that it is set up is that I have a currently working on file, which pretty much just explains what we're working on. And then every time someone joins, our chatbot is gonna send a message into the chat saying like, "Hey, this is what is happening in this stream." So that's kind of one of the functionalities that we want to add. The other one that we want to add is a way for us to, so we want to be able to send to show the chat as part of the stream, which is currently we're not able to do that. So we want to show it somewhere around here. So every time that someone sends a message, or every time that the bot sends a message, we want that to show up as part of the stream too. So we're pretty much just building a bit of tooling around to make our stream a bit better by building those tools. So what I'm doing right now is I am building a test server. So we want to write some unit tests for our server. So I just want to go and write a right here, I'm just writing a test server that is going to take a command, a message from our client, and then it's just going to return it back to us. So what we're testing for, or not even return it back to us, is going to return the information that we were expecting from Twitch. So what we're doing right now is a way for us to be able to send messages back and forth between the client and the server. So there's some things that we will have to figure out, but the main goal is to be able to run tests against our client without having to depend on the Twitch API. Because if we depend on the Twitch API, that means we have to authenticate every single time. So that's kind of the thing that we're doing here. It's just building a very simple server. And then we're going to use this server to just like continue like improving the alerting. So one thing that we built during the during the stream last week was a way for us to show notifications. So when someone follows us, we're going to show a notification on the right side, and that was something that we built in the stream by using Go and creating a server send event server. It's just pretty much a fancy way for the server, so a HTTP server, to send information to a just to be able to send information to our client, and then the client just keeps listening for those events. Cool. So now that we have our tests, so our tests are passing. The one test that we rolled is passing. So now let's start working on the client itself. So I might end up rewriting this test file to something else. So because this is just mostly like a helper function. So I'm just gonna call it helper.test. And then we can just import in different places, because that's one of the cool things about Go, is that when you could write some functions, and if you name them if you name the files with underscore test, those functions are only available for the test packages, for any file that ends with test. So we could just then just reuse it here. So we could do so again, because I named the package main, I just have to continue using main, but then I'm gonna go back and rename it to something else. So here we are just gonna, so we have this file here, and then we're gonna create a new one, just call it and again main, because it's the name of the since we have a main file, which is the one that is running our server right now, our chatbot right now, is we just have to continue using main, but we're gonna change it a bit later on. Okay, so here I'm gonna create a new structure and just call it client. And I'm gonna have to go back to the name because I want to just take some of the things that we have here. Cool. So our client needs the configuration file. So we need to pass config to it. So that's the first package we need. And then the other package that we need is, so we need to open a connection. So we need to check what dialer returns. sorry, returns a connection. So do we need to keep the connection or do we just need the URL? Let's see. We need to keep the connections. So here we have a connection which is just gonna point to our Twitch connection, and then okay, so we could keep the Twitch chat server URL inside of the config file. So for now, we're not gonna handle that. Okay, cool. So I think we have almost everything we need for our client. Cool. So this will be our simple client for now. One thing that I mentioned before is that we need to keep track of the people that are in the chat right now, because when someone joins, if someone double joins, we don't want to send the message twice. So we want to make sure that we keep track of like who joins over time. But we do that later. So here we're just gonna create a new function, and that new function is gonna take a config file. So yeah, so it's gonna take a config file, and then it's gonna return a pointer to client. And then in here, we're just gonna return a pointer of client, which takes a config. Okay. And then so two things we need to do here. So one thing, we need to create a connection. So connect. Oh, it should also return an error, because I believe, yeah, it returns an error. The dialer returns an error, so we just have to do that too. So it also returns an error. So if you cannot connect, if the dialer cannot connect, it's just gonna return an error. So we just have to handle that too. So we're gonna create a dial here, which is gonna connect to a TCP connection. And then here we are gonna go here and do, we have to add a new variable here to it. So we have to add a new variable to our configuration, because we don't have a way to keep track of the Twitch server URL. So we will do that there. Cool. And then if there's an error, we are gonna just we're gonna just return nil and then the error. So we're gonna create our own error here, and then we're gonna wrap it. So and then we pass error. Cool. So we return the error, and here we just have to return nil. Sorry. So we return nil because we don't have any error here. So big. Yeah. So now we have the connection, and then we pass the connection down to here. So now we have the connection, and then we have to just edit the configuration file. So just edit. So here we just have to add a new one. So so what we're doing right now is that I am just creating a configuration, just adding to the configuration file that we have, and we're just saying that we're just telling Go how to parse a JSON file. So we're saying that this JSON field, so irc _server_URI is going to be when we parse the JSON file, we wanted it to be set into this field. And then when we run it, when we finish parsing the file, that field will have that data there. Cool. So now we have, so we have the configuration, and then we have the client. And again, just to write a simple, quick test, we could just do I create a new test, and then here I could just create a client instance, and do new, and then just pass conf. And then, so we need to do conf. So I'm just gonna create it manually. So it will be conf, and then we need a pointer. So I'm gonna turn it into a pointer, and then and then in here we just need to declare another structure, and then here it's just gonna be a pointer to, and we need to set the URL for it, and the URL is going to come from our test server. So totally forgot what we named that. The function that creates it. Oh. And then we start it. And we have to shut it down. Cool. So that means our test server is running. And then if we do address, now we have the address. And since we have the address, we could do, we just check if there's an error. So if error nil, then we just return a fatal error. So just return a fatal error. And so we do failed act. The server, and then we just return the error. And then here we just we could just write something to it. So we could just do the same kind of test that we have here. So So now this says that what we're doing is pretty much the same thing that we did for that simple test. So we're gonna keep expanding this one, but for simplicity, I'm just gonna reuse a bit of it, so I make sure that it works correctly, at least the configuration. So we just have to rerun our tests. So they're passing again, so it matches. Cool. And then, so that's part of it. I might want to rename this file to just add test to it. I just want to, one thing I just did, I don't want myself to be doing it in the future, is that I got access to here to connect, which is a private field, and I don't want to be able to do that. So I'm just gonna make a function that handles all the rights. And that means that we could keep track of all the rights. So I'm just gonna say it's gonna create a send, and it takes a string. And this is more for like as we keep going. I want to make sure that we don't do. It makes it easier for us to change the code later on. So let's see. So we're writing the message. So we're writing back the message that we're sending. In our case, we don't need this. And because there might not be, maybe to make it easier for ourselves, we also make sure that when a message is sent, we add a new line. So we need to send a new line here. So we just have to make sure that we have the new line attached to it. So that means that we don't have to handle it ourselves. Okay, so this goes away. And now we have client.send. And we can send one. And because we changed it a bit, we don't have we have what the oh, this is gonna be a bit weird. No, this is not gonna work. So for now, I'm just gonna stick with having the same package and just make sure that I don't use any other private methods. Cool. Our tests are still passing. So maybe the next thing to do is just let's see. So that means that we're sending information to it. So let's start building our how we parse the information. So one thing I noticed when we were building our test server was that there is no way to set a response. So I don't know what that file is. Yeah, so we have no way to say like this is the information you should send back. Maybe that's something that we should do. So we should have a way to say like this is what you should send back. So instead of copying the message and sending that as a message, we should just send back whatever we expect. Like we could set the response ourselves. So maybe here we should have I think we need to use IO. We need to have a buffer reader. A writer. We have to have a buffer, yeah, bytes, and then we could just write to it, and then we could just pass that as the data that we want to send to the client. So that's how we're going to write to it. So okay, so the way it's going to work is that we have to pass a server response. So server response, let's see. Okay, so it's a pointer, so we should make it into a pointer, and that means we could check if it's nil or not. Cool. And so here we just have to do e dot response, so whatever response we get, so we just have to check if it's nil. If it's nil, we are just gonna do what we usually do. Yeah, so we check if it's nil, we just do what we usually do, and that just keeps our test running, working. So cool. Or it might just end up blocking everything. Oh wait, I messed it up. Okay, so I want this. Okay, so that still works. So what we want to do now is we want to take so I believe the first variable is the writer. So yeah, so we're gonna use the copy one. So copy, and then we're gonna send a connection. But in this time, we're just gonna send the server response. So server response. Okay, so what we're doing now is that, so before, the way we had it set up is that we are just echoing out what the client is sending us, but in some cases with the Twitch API, we will have to just make sure that so there's two things we have to make sure. We have to make sure that the command that we're sending is the correct command. So we want to make sure that the command that we're sending to the client, we validate it and make sure that it matches what we're expecting to be sending. And then the next thing that we get is a response that we get from Twitch, right? So Twitch would not send a response until you authenticate, and then until you set a nickname, right? If you don't do those things, the Twitch API will just not respond back to you. So that's kind of what we're gonna do, right? So what we're gonna do is, first, we're gonna send these commands for authentication, and then when we send the commands for authentication, we are then just going to add the nickname to it. So and then we're going to force the API server to return we're going to force our echo server to respond to this message, and that will be the first task, right? It's like, how do you parse these messages? So here we have to go back to our client, and okay, so we have the same message, and then we're gonna create a new one, which is just authenticate. Oh, so we do have access to that. So here we are gonna use our client, and we're just gonna create a method that is called authenticate. So or off. So this, I need a sample of how like what to call it, so we need a for loop that is constantly listening for new messages. I just need to check what would that be called. So I'm gonna go into the code base and check that, just making sure that I name things correctly. Okay, so we're here. So this is the send. Where is the reader? The do. So this is a for loop. So they call it do. So I'm gonna just call it do. So we need a function that just does the work. And the work itself is if you go back to our main, our simple test server, what we need to put in do is just the for loop here. So the for loop itself is just gonna constantly run and just like constantly just read, like start listening for things. Well, maybe just call it star. Let's just go with star for now. So star, and we are gonna send it to a goal routine here because we don't want that to block. But we need to figure out a way to send messages. So when a message comes through, we need to figure out how to like parse it and send it to the correct place. So we might have to depend a bit on channels here too. So we send to a go routine, and then we have a for loop here, and then that for loop is just parsing the lines. So we need to move these two things here. This doesn't. So we're just moving some of the logic out of here, and then so we're creating a reader to read the protocol, and then for now we're just gonna print this, and then since we're printing it, we can just do so we're just gonna print the error for now. I think our server should just crash here. And then here, you're just gonna print a new line because we don't have much to do right now. So we're just gonna print it. Cool. Let's see if we have any parsing errors. Just a bit of recap. We're still building our Twitch chat client using Go. Our main goal is to be able to take some of the data that some of the messages that we're getting from the Twitch chat server, and we make it more useful for us. So that's kind of why we're going here. So there's people that are joining and then there is people that are departing, and there is people there is like chatbots and things like that. We want to be able to track those messages too. So that's where we're going here. So that's what we're building. We're building a way for us to just listen for events and get messages from the Twitch client and send it back and forth. So we're going to start our server. So here, well, here's the issue, is that we need to listen for some of the events. So for now, I'm just going to put a channel. Just call it on message. And that is going to take a string. So what we're doing here is that we're going to take a message. When a message comes through, we are just going to send it into a channel. Just for testing. Also, let me know if that message gets very annoying, because then we can just turn it off. I'm not sure how helpful it's going to be. Okay, so now that we have a channel to send messages to, we can just do on message and then just put the line in there. So we're putting the message into, so we put the message into the on message channel, and then here we could just get rid of this line here, this line here, this error here, and we could do on message here, and then cool. So now that we have that, I wonder how it's gonna work. Cool. So it's blocking somewhere. So let's see. Oh, I know where it's blocking. So we never started our server. So find that star. We also need to shut it down. So we will have to do that next. Okay, so that works. So what we're doing now is that we're trying to create the necessary API, like the necessary methods to be able to get messages. So because what we're doing right now is asynchronous, that means that some of this information that we're getting will be like, we will have to figure out how to handle certain things, and we're going to use a lot of channels here because we need to send information from a goal routine into the main process that is sending the message. So we have to send that information back and forth. So we could check. Another way to do it is like just create a buffer and just like put all the messages into a slice, but that could get very hairy very soon. And just like you put it into the so you have two goal routines, one that is adding things to the stack, and then another one that is removing things so one is adding, one is removing from the stack, and that will make it where you don't have to use channels. But we should stick with channels for now. If it gets too complicated, I will just stop using channels and just go straight with it, just using a stack to add responses to it. So we will add a response to the bottom, and then we take the response from the top, and that means that we don't have to keep the connection open. And then we will have to use a lock. So we will lock. The thing with channels is that we don't have to lock, but if we use a stack, we will have to lock when we're adding things to it, and then when we're removing things from it. And that would help us not use the channels. Sorry, it will help us not use. It will help us not to use channels. So what we're doing now is that we have we started our server, and then by starting our server, it just starts a goal routine that has a for loop, which is constantly listening for new lines. So when a new line comes through, it's just gonna send it into the on message. It's gonna send it on the on message. channel because we just got a message. Now, since we got it on the on message, what we need to figure out now is, okay, so we got it on the on message and we need to shut it down. So let's figure out how to shut it down. So we just have to close the connection because I think we're just keeping the connection open. I think we just have to call on the dialer. We just have to call. Let's just call it close here. So here we just do have to do connect that close. Yep, and that will close our connection. So let's see what it returns. It just returns an error. You could just return the error for it too. One thing that this wouldn't do is handle graceful errors. Sorry, graceful shutdown, but it's something that we got later on. Okay, so we have that. And here we just have to defer the close. So we make sure that we close the connection. So we just rerun it. And then we're failing here. So we're getting an error because we're reading from a close connection. So I wonder if it's because I wonder if there's a way to shut. We should. Oops. We might have to announce. So we might have to announce that we're closing the connection. Yeah, so we have to announce that we're closing the connection, and we shouldn't be reading new lines. So I wonder if there's a way to. So this is reading for a new line, and it's gonna block, and then do close. This is the one reading the buffer, and then it just keeps going. So I wonder if there's like a graceful way to like close it. Oh, maybe I could just use another channel. So same way that we did before. So I'm just gonna create a channel called close, and then close that channel. Put this inside of a. No, there might be a better way to do it. So let's see. Because right now the issue is we're trying to wait, did you just have? We just have to figure out where the error happened. So 76. Oh, that's inside the helper. So what is happening? Fail to parse message with error, which is this line here that is triggering it. So the thing that's happening is that we're triggering an error here. We just want to make sure that that error doesn't happen. So is it trying it? I just want to make sure that it's this stack. Yeah, it's no, it's not panicking. But I'm just printing. Oh, it's because I changed this. Did I change it? No. Yeah, that comes with the message. So let's see. We need to handle the connection close. So the issue that we're getting is because we're not handling the close connection. So we need to know when the server is connected and then just close the connection. Okay, so I think I have an idea here. So right. So we're just checking that if the connection was close. So that doesn't go there, it goes here. So what we're making sure is that connection is close, and then if it's close, it's just not gonna fail. Nope. Oh, could it be? What is it panicking? That's kind of the issue that I'm having. It's like it shouldn't panic. We're returning a panic here, and you shouldn't do that. Oh, no, that's not right. So let's see. So start function created a thread, and then line 56, 76. What is line 76? So I think line 76 is the one throwing that is panicking, because he's trying to copy. Oh, this is the issue. We should just continue here. We should never go down there. Oh wait. Action. So. Oh, we're inside our goal routine. So we should just return. And that should help. So the issue is that we're trying to write to a connection that was close, and we don't want to do that. Okay, that fixed it. Cool. So okay, so we close the connection, then we defer. So that means we have. I should fix there. And then here, since we're already here, we just handle the connection being closed. So if we get the end of line, end of file error, that means that there is no more files to read. So we should just return here. That means that the Twitch chat server just closed the connection for us, and we can't really do much. Okay. And then just make sure that we run the test again. So now I think we're blocking again. Blocking. Oh, wait. Oh, it's because we're gonna do that. Okay. it was. So let's see where that's happening. I wonder if we could figure out like what if this error is a if there's a structure to find when a connection was closed and I use it. Let's see. Because then if a connection was closed, we could just return a grateful. So that is. I wonder if the package itself has one. So we just want to make sure that we use the right error message. Because if we use the right, there might be a error type that we could use to just not throw an error. That's another one. So I wonder if I could just use contain, but that is kind of let's try it. For now, we just leave it as a on-handle error and then come back to it because it's not causing, it wouldn't cause any issues. It's pretty much just saying that the connection was closed, which is true. So the connection was closed. Well, the connection was closed because we're shutting down the server first. So the way that the referral works is that when it was first called first, it's just gonna call it again. So sorry, it's in the order that it was used or call is gonna be the order that the functions themselves are gonna be called. So it's gonna call first. It's gonna deferral first to shut down the server, and then it's gonna shut down the client, which is why we're seeing that error. But if I did something like here, and I use deferral, we shouldn't see that error. We still see it. That's a bit weird. Oh, it's because this is no, that's weird. Let's just keep going for now. So now we got the message, so we know that how that works, and then let's just implement the authentication. So we're gonna implement the authentication, which we have already the information. So the way the authentication works is it's two parts that we have to send to the. So we need the authentication and the capability of it too. So for now, let's just go and do the authentication, and then we might also have like a list of like just like blacklisting some messages, but for now let's do the capability messages. So here we're just gonna create a new function, and that function is just gonna be used to set the capabilities. So and then we want this to call it, so it shouldn't be public. So what we're saying here is that we're gonna call the capability method, and then we are gonna set it. So we're gonna do the way that we're doing it. Just take this for now, and And since the changes that we made, so we need to make a change to the new line. So the new line is also, we have to pass -r to, sorry, /r. Okay. So 2 things here. So we want to use our send message method. And also we want to send a command. So let's just make this more helpful. So we are sending a command. Command, which is a string. Or let's do a type chat commands or chat command. So that's the type. We're declaring a type that is an integer, and then we could just declare a constant, a set of constant values that we could just continue using it. So we could do I'll just reuse it. So we're pretty much saying here that okay, so what we're saying here is that the capability command is type chat command and then iota, which the chat command type is just a alias for an int. So that means that we could just do and the next thing that we have to do is just convert the commands to whatever the Twitch API expects them to be. So we could do something like bar and we just need to convert it back. So what we're doing here is just converting it back, and it's a map. So it's a map that is type. So the key is the chat command, and the struct has just strings, and then we can just start building it. So here, the way this one looks is capability command, and when we use that, oh, we already have it. So we pass a command, and it's gonna be type. It's gonna have this in here. The cool thing about this also is that we could use we could do something like, oh, we expect all the commands to have, so we could pass the command like this. So that means that we could use we could interpolate the command that we need to send as part of it. Sorry, the value of the command. So whatever command is plus the value of that command. So that means that we could do something like, if we go back to our send function, which we're changing a bit, our change function is going to take the command, which is a chat command, and then the message. And here we need to do something else. So we don't need this one anymore, because we're going to be using this work. Should work. Let's see. So this is why it would be very helpful to write some tests, because I'm not 100% sure if this is going to work correctly. And then so here we just need to look into command to string, and then we pass a command. So what we're doing now is just converting the commands. And we also have to make sure that we get our command. So the command that we get is there. So if we don't have, if the command we don't know, if we don't know the command, we should just return error. So we could just be like, or return error that new. Just use. And then here we just make sure that you just say unknown command. And we return the command. Let's try it this way. I think it's gonna complain if I don't do it this way. So the thing that I'm not sure if when we use like interpolate strings is if it's recursive or not. Because if it's recursive, it should just work. If it's not, it shouldn't work. We should get an error also on kind to make sure that, so if it fails, we should get an error. So let's see if that works. So for now, oops, I am forgetting to return something. So for now, we're gonna return nil. Okay, and then what we need to do now is to send a command. So we're gonna do capability command, and then here we're just gonna add the capabilities here. And we don't need any new lines because we're adding them already. Rid of that. So the way to think about the constant value that I just declare on top is you could think about it as a enum. If you have worked with like TypeScript or Java, you can create enums. That's pretty much what I did. I just created an enum, but it's a bit more. You have to do a bit of more minor work because it doesn't handle the conversion for you. You have to do the conversion yourself. So this code feels a bit repetitive. So I most likely gonna come back and refactor it. So it doesn't feel so repetitive because we're calling the command 3 times. We could probably have like an array that takes our input. Also, we don't need, so let's just clean up this a bit. So we don't need this here, and we don't need a calling either. Yeah, so we don't need any of that. So this should work. Where if we call the authentication method, so I'm gonna go back and change our test cases here because now we kind of broke this. So we need to figure out a way to also get a response, like some there is, so when we send a message to the server, we need to get that message also back in a way. So let's see what we can do here. So first, oh, I have an idea. So let's write that first afterwards. So now we're sending capabilities that we should call. Let's get rid of this for now. We should call c.client.auth and we should return an error. This is gonna be ugly. So yeah, definitely will come back and refactor this because this is gonna yeah, so I'm just gonna speed through this because I'm definitely gonna come back and change how we handle errors because it's very repetitive. So I need that, and then I do error. So because we're sending the message so many times, so yeah, I'm gonna come back and just handle this way better. Yeah, so maybe creating a slice might be the better way to do this. Okay, so we are sending the messages for authentication, and then off is going to return an error. Okay, so it's going to return an error, and then for now I'm just going to leave it like this. Then we go back here, and we're going to save it. But because it's an error already defined, it's going to complain, so we're going to change that. And error should just be null here. So error is going to be null, and then we are going to print whatever is returned by the message. So client dot. So on message just has the raw message. We haven't parsed it or anything like that. So so we have the raw message. So yeah, good thing we created the same function because we will have to go and find every place I was calling that. Okay. So I 86. Oh, that was not the error. Oh, it's supposed to be, it's an integer, so. Nope, we will have to use b. Yeah. So, because a channel is a pointer, we're just getting the address to the channel. Because we're not waiting for it, so let's wait for it. So no, we're not getting a response. Wait. I don't think he's waiting, so. Or maybe what we're getting back is just a pointer. Oh yeah, it's not waiting because we're not receiving the message. So we have to receive the message before we do anything else. Okay, so it doesn't really work the way I thought. It's not doing the parsing correctly, so we have to parse it twice. So let's see how we could do that. It might be like a two-step. So I first do let's see. We just want to make it recursive. Maybe there's no need to get fancy, so let me just get rid of this here. Yeah, there's really no need to do that. Okay, so okay, let's see if that works. Okay, so why are we only sending once? Oh, it's because we're not reading more. So now, so we can just do a check. So first I want to make sure that what we're sending is correct, but then we can just keep going. So let's see. Yeah, we can just check. Let's just check that whatever we're putting in is what we want. So what we want is string. So we want this. This here. And we want so we have that information, and then we can just loop through it. So we could loop through it and then just like wait for the channel to respond back. So let's see. Once. So we're just gonna loop through it. So again, we're just gonna print the error here just in case, and then the message just got. Okay. I declare the array wrong. I forgot the syntax for making arrays. Let's see. Inline array. Array slash slice. Struct. Oh, okay, so we just have to do okay, that makes a lot more sense. And now here we're going to do if got not equals to want, then would just be like f error we're saying if we got that and we want this, then we should just return a, we're gonna return the error. Okay, so let's see if that worked. Cool. And what will happen if we give this a different name? so it's gonna just straight up fail. Wait, that was something else. The two of them are failing. It's because he wants the whole thing. So I need to put the whole name for it. So I need to put the full command. Oh no, I am putting the full command. Why is it getting split? So, got once. Oh, it's because I didn't finish the rest. Huh. I only did half of it. So I want this here. And I want this one here. So I'm just gonna finish this up, this test case, and then I'm gonna stop streaming. And meanwhile, we could raise someone that is working on something cool. So let's see if we could find someone that is working on something cool. Cool. So here we are just gonna run this. Oh, I missed the S. So as you can see, this is very helpful because then we could figure out like where the things are failing. So it's very helpful because then we're validating that what the information that we're sending back is valid and just not garbage. And then we can just make sure that it just works. Okay, so the tests themselves are passing now. Yeah, so they're passing. So thank you so much for hanging out and helping me post some stuff and like going through some tests. So let's find someone to Ray. Let's see who is streaming. So let's rate Anthony. So Anthony is writing some code, so we could just rate him. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out. And please stop by tomorrow. I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow too. So see you.